Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrina and I come to you from the Pacific Northwest where I live with my partner, our 2 kitties, and my 2 horses. I'm on my way out to the barn to feed the horses. It is about 5:45 on Friday, March 1st. Today, what I have planned is I have a finished object. That's awesome. I canceled my normal riding lesson. There goes the gate, if you can hear it. Randy just left for work and her automatic gate is closing behind him. I canceled my riding lesson today because we have had winter this week, and I am including some video of that probably after the knitting portion. It's still a little drizzly out. Excuse me. It is, I don't know, it's in the upper 30s. But here is the creek. So at the end of the video, I showed the creek in the daylight yesterday, and you can see the outfall, or maybe you can't see because it's just full of water, but maybe you can see the water rushing out. This is the upstream side, and it's actually looks like it's gone down from yesterday. Yesterday it was kind of going out of the bank, so maybe we had a break from the rain last night. There's the house, and there's the barn. So it's pretty squishy out. I really haven't had time to do much with the horses this week. Well, it's not a matter of time. It was just either snaining, which is a combination of rain and snow, and it was just hard to work with Bragi. He was so distracted with the wind, the hail, the hard rain. A branch fell down in the paddock, which upset him. So we had to go back to like really basic stuff. For example, can you put your halter on while it is windy, hailing, raining really hard? They're standing over on the other side of the tree, and you won't be able to see the branch. Oh, look. Looks like it's kind of lightening up over there. But anyway, so, just working on stuff like that. And, the question of, Bragi, would you rather worry about what's going on over at the neighbors, or would you rather listen to me? So it was just really hard for him. So I just did some very basic things that were easy for him. And Odin, I think I got him worked around the round pin once this week. So I'm in the barn. I'm going to get to feeding, and I'll see you later. Welcome to the knitting portion of my podcast. And as you saw in my intro, I have a finished object. This is the Riverside Sweater that I knit out of locally produced yarn. So this is the colorway Truffle, and this is from Maj. The yarn comes from Skagit Valley Yarns. Like I said, I live in the Pacific Northwest. From Harmony Fields. That's the label. So it's East Frisian and Lacaune. So someone who is familiar with sheep breeds, please tell me how that is pronounced. I have not blocked this sweater. If you've been following along, you know that when I finished a lot of the sweater and then decided it was too red. So I ripped it out like to, I guess about to here, to take out a lot of the red in the body and revise the pattern somewhat so that it was now top down, because it starts out as a bottom up sweater. And did more of the browns and whites with red as the accent. So the way the pattern is supposed to be, the brown is the main color, the fromage is contrast color 2 actually, and the red is contrast color 1. The way that the pattern's written, you actually use quite a lot of contrast color 1, almost equal to the main color, and it was just too much red for me. The red is a commercial yarn. It is Patons worsted. Some opinions liked the red, still like the red, so as a nod to those folks, I left the red in like the sleeve and also originally the sleeves ended about here, right on my forearm. I like longer sleeves. So I took out the cuff and added like this whole section and plus 10 rows of cuff. So it'll be the right length after I block it. It just needs to relax a bit. It's been cold out, so blocking would take forever, and I have just wanted to wear this sweater since I have been knitting on it for so long, since before Christmas. So here it is. I will put a picture somewhere, probably towards the end, so you can just really see it. I know it's hard to see while I'm sitting down. Sorry, I have the hiccups. I've been drinking some decaf coffee that is now cold, and it's giving me the hiccups. So that is my finished object. I am so happy to be done with this. It took, I was going to try to tell you. So I have this much of the second skein of the fromage. I have this much of contrast color 1, so quite a lot, and it looks like I used three balls of truffle, which is 240 yards each for 100 grams, or 4 ounces of worsted, sorry. So yeah, about 720, I think, of the truffle, and then 240 plus yards, maybe 250 yards of the, well, maybe more than that, I'm not really sure. So maybe 300 yards or so of the fromage. So I also had 2 skeins of this Patons, keep trying to call it Patons Kroy, it's just Patons. And this is how much I have left. I don't know if I showed you this, but I have quite a lot left of the 240 yards of the third ball of the truffle. You know, Patons, yeah, Patons classic worsted wool, which has, let me tell you how many yards. So there's 194 yards in one ball. So I suspect I used, it's hard to tell, but I think I used maybe 1 ball total. I'll have to weigh it to let you know for sure. So I'm kind of thinking I need to knit a hat, because I don't have a hat that has these colors on it. And I like, this time of year, of course, I like to wear a hat. This is the pattern. So it has some waist shaping, which this sweater fits me well. I knit the size, it looks like I knit the size XL, which would have taken, it says 5 50-gram balls. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so because I use 3 100-gram, or I got into 3 100-gram balls, and called for like 400 yards of red, and I think I only used 2, quite honestly, and 400 yards of the contrast colored 2. So, you know, I don't, so the way I did it, it just ended up, it seemed like it was a lot smaller. I made a lot of pattern adjustments. The neckline, as you can see here, sits kind of further out. I did more. I did a longer collar, and kind of brought it in a little bit so it would be warm. And I know this drives some people crazy. I'm thinking mostly of Rebecca Clow and the Crayola. She doesn't like her t-shirts to show through. I don't care. So, I mean, I want the sweater to be featured, but I don't care if there's a little bit of t-shirt showing through. That is my favorite way to wear a sweater, is just throw on a t-shirt and put a sweater over it. Part of it is because when I go outside, and very likely I don't want to get hay or other horse-related detritus in my sweater, so I take off my sweater and put on a barn jacket, and it's just a very easy transition for me. So what did I do? I cast on 192 stitches, so this would be the bottom, and that is the XL size. I don't normally wear an XL size. I might be a medium to a large. But this looks like a kind of a smaller, I mean, it comes in extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and the finished measurements for the extra small is 29 1/4, all the way up to, it goes up to a 5X. So in the final bust measurement for the XL is like 50 3/4, which I'm not sure that is really XL in kind of modern standards. This came from Silver Screens Knits Volume 2. It was probably a free pattern. I made a ton of adjustments on the back page. So here are all my chicken scratches and calculations and like, whoops, didn't do that right. I'm gonna do it over. So yeah, I made a ton of changes. I was trying to read the part that I did on the, so the collar is, the neck edge is supposed to end in 110 stitches, and I think I made it quite a bit smaller than that, and I used Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, so it just, you know, my head fits through. That's that project. Super happy it's done while it's still winter. And as I mentioned this morning, as I was walking out to the barn, it has been winter this week. So it's, I mean, it's getting, there's a lot more daylight and the temperatures aren't quite as cold. It hasn't really frozen lately. I'm looking out the upper floor windows in case you're wondering what I'm looking at. Just kind of looking at the sky. It's very gray, it's windy, it's a cold wind. It was, I want to say it was around 40 degrees when I ran errands this morning, and that wind was cold coming out of the north. The other thing was, it's just been wet lately, and if you live in a damp climate, you know it feels a lot colder than if you live in a dry climate. So that's all I'm going to say about the weather. I think about weather a lot, and I think people who run farms, whether that's their primary occupation or their avocation or avocation, I think we think about the weather a lot. Or if you're an outdoors person, you probably think about the weather a lot too. So what else do I have going on? I have a lot of knitting content, so I hope that if I didn't say so in the beginning, and I probably didn't, I hope you have a fun project to work on and maybe something nice to drink. So another project you have seen before that I am working on is this pair of socks. It's cable socks from 52 Weeks of Socks. I am working on the first pattern, which is called Intersections, and it is made from a Patons yarn. That is the yarn. I have made some adjustments on this. The smallest size sock is 9.5 to 10-inch foot circumference, which is quite large, frankly. My foot circumference is 8.5, so I had to adjust the pattern somewhat. I did finish one sock. I don't think I showed you this last week. Maybe I did, but here is one finished sock. They are toe up. I did the invisible cast on for that one, and you can see it is I used all the yarn in one skein. The foot, I did 48 rows, no cables on the bottom. And then you start doing the increases for the heel. The heel seems a little big, even though when I re-knit this sock, I did cast on. No, I didn't cast on. Well, I mean, I did. But the final stitch count for the width is, instead of 64, I did 56. So the heel is a little bit wide. For my foot, I'm hoping that it, when I block them, I may just throw them in the washing machine. But it's really nice and snug, so I love that. It's just without the cables on the bottom of the foot and the heel, it's a little bit sloppy. So for that reason, I do prefer top down. I feel like the heel flap and gusset and the top down way fits my foot better. So I have had trouble with sock fit ever since I started knitting socks, which has been 2 or 3 years now. And I typically use very small needles. These, since it's Patons Kroy, which is a little bit heavier fingering weight yarn, I use Addie's Flexi Flips in, I think these are 1 or 2.5 millimeters size, US size 1. So these are typically bigger needles. I'm not sure if I would have used my typically smaller. The needles I typically use for fingering weight yarn is size 0, which is 2 millimeters. And I tend to knit the smallest size because of my skinny feet. And I think I have a narrow heel as well. This is the second sock. So because I just could not get the invisible Judy's Magic cast on, I did the figure 8 cast on, and it really worked out pretty nicely. So I just use a spare knitting needle for the cable needle. Sometimes it's not even the same size as the needle I'm knitting with. This one happens to be. I have a set of double pointed needles that I use. I find these a little bit slippery, so I just use them as cable needles and extra needles as needed. So I am on I can tell you since my row counter is right here, I am on row 9 of the leg. As I mentioned on the previous sock, I do 48 down and I do 48 up, and then the cuff is 10. And I should use all the yarn I have, and hopefully I don't have to go digging through my Patons Kroy stash for just like a final row of ribbing. So this is the colorway. It's blue raspberry, and I hope to have these finished this weekend. What else have I been up to since I have, you saw my finished object last week, the scarf, it was a holiday motif scarf that I turned into an infinity cowl, and I wore that the last time. So what have I been up to since then, since I have these finished projects? And that's how it works. I typically have 3 projects on the needles, and then I work on them for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're done, which is cool. So I shared this last time. This is, oh, I forgot to tell you, this bag made by my mom. So very simple drawstring bag with a lavender lining. Love the drawstrings. Very easy to get in and out, and the cats can't get in it and chew up my yarn. So this, what I have made a ton of progress. So this is another Pacific Knits Co. pattern. That's what the Infinity Cowl that I finished last week. And this is the Crypted Cowl. It is not an Infinity Cowl. I think this pattern may have the option of knitting it into an Infinity Cowl, but I just didn't really want to do that. Oh, I was going to show you Pacific Knit Co. She is a local designer, local to me in that she lives in Seattle, which is south of me by an hour, and a lot more than an hour on a weekday during commute time. This is super fun. This is a double-sided cowl. So the Cryptid, and I just finished, it's a provisional cast on, so that's what the red is. So you recognize that yarn from my sweater that I'm wearing, and it's hard to show this. The border is just a decorative border. It's kind of foresty. Use green, and so the gray is a Knit Picks DK or sport weight. This color, this darker color is Spin Cycle, and it is a sport weight. And then this lighter color is, I think it is also Knit Picks, but I'll show you the yarn here. What I am trying to show you is the Cryptid. Look at that. I finished the Bigfoot this morning. And then the rest of the cowl is kind of the forest scene. So very typical kind of deep, dark Pacific Northwest, where you think you might see a cryptid in there. Maybe you see some eyeballs in there, perhaps. Who knows? And so this is going to be double-sided. So the next, when I finish this, and I've got, it looks like about 25 rows left out of a total of 65 rows. So this will be, the next part will be, so this is going to be a reversible cowl. The next part I am going to do is the Loch Ness Monster chart. So you get 3 charts, and one of them is Mothman. I'm not that familiar with the Mothman legend, so she offers the chart. She has one right side up chart for each motif, and then she has an upside down chart. So I will, when I make progress on that, probably, hopefully next week, I will have that. I know, I feel fairly certain, because this is my early morning knitting, where I knit for about an hour before work or before whatever it is we're going to do on the weekend, before breakfast on the weekends. So I will show you my progress. Last week when I was talking about this, I had some ideas about how I was going to do the colorways, and then I completely changed my mind. So this is the light color, obviously. It's got like a tweedy kind of flavor to it. It works well with the Spin Cycle. Oh, this is High Desert. I'm not sure where I got, oh, I might have got this from Knit Picks. Yeah, it is Knit Picks. And this is it's 89% US grown Shiniko wool, not heard of that. 6% acrylic and 5% rayon. And it is a sport weight. It is a plumper sport weight than the Spin Cycle. And I was just going to pull out the label, because this one has 148 yards per 50 grams. So This is the spin cycle. I'm definitely getting into more a black, whereas you can see the inside is more of a variegated. I haven't noticed that. So what this is, spin cycle yards. This is 100% merino wool. It is 200 yards for, how many grams? I assume it's 50 grams because it was kind of a small skein. Let me see if I can pry this apart. And this is called Nocturne. But quite a bit more yardage for an equivalent amount of grams. Although I'm not really seeing the price tag could be in the way for that. And when I was buying it, I brought this yarn in, but I probably just looked at that it was sport weight and didn't really look at the how many yards per gram. So I think it's going to be fine. I have been trying to use a really fairly loose grip. These are Chogu red lace, size 4, US size 4. So I think that's 3.75 millimeters. Really fun, and it seems like it's going very fast. Let me put that back in there. This bag is from a conference. It's from an association I belong to, the Washington State Environmental Health Association, and I got this at a conference last year. So, you know, I typically use these kinds of bags for knitting bags, project bags. Super fun. So the Loch Ness Monster, I can do a totally different color. I think I'm going to use the gray as the main color. I have 2 balls of that. So there's this that I'm using as kind of the well, it's not ribbing, but the kind of the border piece. And then I have these other 3. So I will probably end up using, kind of thinking this for the Loch Ness Monster. And I think I'm use this for the sky. So that is going to be coming up as part of the pattern, and it will be holding, there will be 3 colors per row in some rows. I don't love that. It's kind of awkward and clumsy, but I certainly love how it looks at the end. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. So tie this up because otherwise Herbert is a yarn murdering cat. Now, did I cast on a new sweater? Of course I did. So I have some fingering weight yarn that I'm holding double with this mohair. I already knit a Love Note sweater, which I really like, and it uses 2 skeins of fingering and I think 1 skein of, is it 1 or 2 skeins of mohair? I can't remember. And I like that sweater. However, because there's so many patterns available, and I think this is free, I grabbed the Calliope pattern. I'm not sure I have enough yarn for like the full sleeves, so I may make this 3/4 sleeves. So we'll see. The sleeves look quite long. This is by Melissa Clulow, C-L-U-L-O-W. It's a raglan style sweater, and it's top down. Here is what it looks like on. So the sleeves are quite long, and I really don't want them that long. So I am going to definitely make the sleeves shorter. So hopefully that will give me enough yarn. So I just cast on. I am using the recommended needles, casting on the 3rd size, and it's recommended, I think, like 10 inches of positive ease. I don't really want that much positive ease, but you know, I'm happy with some positive ease. So the neck ribbing needles are US size 6, and then the main needles are size 7. It calls for 3 skeins for the size that I'm knitting of the fingering weight yarn, 438 yarns for 100 grams. And then also 3 skeins of the mohair silk blend, which I only have 2 of each, so I could possibly be playing yarn chicken. Barely started on. These are clover needles. Difficult to do magic loop because they like to curl up like that. So barely started on doing the neck ribbing. I'm happy with the color though. I love the color. So got my little broomstick row or beginning of round marker. So thankfully the ribbing is only 1.5 inches, and then, no, that's not true. Then you start increasing, and then at some point you So you do a lot of short rows and raglan creasings within that ribbed collar. Trying to see where you change to larger needles, because that's what I am going to be looking forward to. Otherwise, I could definitely order I could order Chogu red lace needles in that size 6. Because I don't have any of the knit picks. My main size 7 needles are these interchangeable needles. Again, the cord is a little not quite as cooperative as the oh, right here. Switch to main gauge needles. It says it in bright pink, which I completely just skipped over that because it's in bright pink. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to start working on that. And why, might you ask, am I not making a lot of progress on this since I finished this? If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that I finished this the other night and wore it to work yesterday. It is because as part of my Frog My Knits 2024, pound Frog My Knits 2024, I am redoing projects that have not exactly brought me joy. Oh, I forgot to talk about this bag. This is a canvas bag. It's underneath, I think it's about, it was a Kickstarter, and it's about body positivity and just like kind of making a statement to the fashion industry about, you know, we don't all necessarily want to look like, and I'm harking back. The reason why I'm thinking is because what I'm about to say is going to sound really negative, and I'm trying not to be negative. And of course, I'm looking out the lights or the windows up there for inspiration. So I just remember back in the 60s when very thin models were in fashion. I read somewhere that the idea is that the models were kind of supposed to be like living clothes hangers. So very thin so that the clothes would be featured as if they were on a moving hanger, which if I would have said that without that backstory, that would have been terribly negative, and that is certainly not what I mean. What happened is, like, after the 60s and into the 70s, that body type really became the ideal, it seems like. And then there was a lot of women and girls who suffered eating disorders because they're trying to meet that when that is not what their bodies were meant to do. All that to say, that is what that bag is trying to promote, because I think even 50, 60 years later, that there are still a lot of women and girls in particular who are trying to achieve that ideal without being realistic about their own, the gifts of their own body and the body that they were born with. Okay. So what else has been taking up my time? So this bag was also made by my mom. So some of this is hand-dyed fabric, which I really like. This is very quilted and is lined with this, I believe this is hand-dyed fabric. So love this. I love the drawstring. This is an awesome bag. There's not a pocket in this one, but that's okay. So I finished this sweater last year, and it is a Boyland Knits sweater. This is the front. Colorwork sweater, supposed to be short sleeve. It was way too cropped for me, and I could certainly wear it with a like a shirt underneath, and I probably would, because this is Brooklyn tweed wool and it is a little bit rustic feeling, but I don't always want to wear like a shirt underneath, and I didn't necessarily want the tail sticking out, so I bought another skein of the Brooklyn tweed overtones yarn. This is Goldfinch, and just ripped out the cuff and started doing more on the body. Got a loose piece of yarn. So that is what I've been working on. It took me forever to get this on the needles and start knitting the pattern again. In fact, that is what I did last night, because I finished this sweater the night before and didn't have time to really start on anything. So I got this back on the needles. This was definitely a bottom or a top down sweater, so I'm going in the right direction. And I'm just finding little loose pieces of yarn from my cutting that, my performing surgery on this sweater. So this isn't going to take me very long. I'll probably do, I'll have to measure. I'll probably get pretty close to the end of it before I do the ribbing, and then this only has, it has this much ribbing, so not a lot. The pattern is, like I said, Boyland Knits. This is the Misurina sweater, so it's designed to be cropped. I'm not a huge fan of cropped sweaters, so this is fingering weight yarn, and I think there is a certain amount of ease that you want. Size inclusive, designed with sizes to fit busts from 28 to 66 inches. It's 6 inches of positive ease. And it does note that if you are a bustier person, that you may want to make it longer. I just happen to run out of yarn, but thankfully this yarn from Brooklyn Tweed is widely available, so I was just able to easily order another skein of yarn. Using my favorite Chowgu red lace needles, size 4, which are 3.5 millimeters. That's right, size 5 is 3.75. So that's what I'm working on. I anticipate having this finished by the time you see me again. So that is that project. So 35 minutes talking about knitting, and I'm not done. I've got one more project. So because I am an avid follower of the Bakery Bears and a patron, so I'm putting up these little pieces of yarn, so that looks a little funny, but another bag made by my mom. This one is zippered. This is another quilted bag. with a lined interior, and this one does have a pocket on the inside made of kind of a really nice kind of, see if I can show this without dumping out the contents. So that is the interior pocket. So the zipper, sometimes the yarn gets caught in the zipper, and that can be a little problematic. I haven't had it cause really any significant damage, so it's just, I guess, more of a slight inconvenience more than anything. So I am happy to have this bag. I love getting, you know, handmade bags. So if you are a patron of the Bakery Bears, you get, especially if you are one of the higher level patrons. And one thing I did recently is just really evaluated the value that I get from the podcasts that I support. So, and Bakery Bears really gives a tremendous amount of user inclusive content. So something that the user can really use. Like hand dyeing yarns. You can follow along with that if you are into that. I am not so much, but you get patterns, and especially if you are in the, I think, gold and platinum level. I'm a gold level patron, so they offer to gold level patrons, they offer a certain number of the platinum patterns, and if you are a platinum supporter, then you really get a lot of value out of that. They produce a tremendous amount of content, and it's the patterns and the knit alongs. So the patron pattern that was released this morning is called the Pop Socks, and Pop is not only for patron, I think this is patron only available. You can't buy it on Ravelry. But also because it's pink and orange. So I love her patterns. They're top down. I always knit the smallest size with my smallest needles because of my scrawny feet. The colors I chose are pink. This is West Yorkshire Spinners. I lost the label, so I am not sure what the colorway is. And this is a gold color, so not quite Pop Socks pink and orange, but pink and yellow. So I am using Chogu red lace. I'm using size 0 in their bamboo, and I just cast this on this morning. So just the rib, I think I have I think I'm on the 5th row of the rib. So I look forward to finishing my intersection socks. I can't find the tag to this one either. I use this in my Nutcracker socks, the Advent knit along, which I think is available to all patrons. So no matter what level, and they do start out at a very low, like $3 a month or something. So highly recommend supporting them if you are able to do that. Can you believe it? That was it for the knitting content. I am going to spend, I think, most of today knitting. I think I'm going to work on these for a while some more, and then maybe some of the Calliope sweater this afternoon, and then work on the Misurina tonight while watching TV. So speaking of watching, we watched a really good movie last night. It had Tom Hanks in it, and I actually read the book a couple years ago. My sister gave it to me for Christmas, I think 2 Christmases ago, and it's called The News of the World, I believe is what it is called. And it is about Tom Hanks plays a captain who comes across a pretty gruesome discovery, and there is a little girl who is orphaned. She is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, but she only speaks Kiowa. So apparently, the book goes in a lot more detail. I don't remember the author. It was really good. Highly recommend reading it if you are a reader, but watching it, you're gonna get, especially Tom Hanks, he's a fabulous actor. So he becomes charged with taking this girl to her family. The girl was, and the story in the movie is quite vague about how she ended up with a Kiowa tribe. She wants to go back to the Kiowa tribe, but because there are records of surviving family, Tom Hanks' character, Captain Kit, or Kid, I can't remember, is charged with taking her home, which is a bit of an inconvenience for him because he is a discharged captain from the Army from what I assume were the Indian Wars of the 1800s. And there's some hints about a wife, but it's not clear the status of the wife until much later in the movie. The way he earns his living is he travels around and he reads the newspaper to people who may be illiterate, or they're laborers. They spend all their time working in fields or mines or whatever the industry is of their area. And he's traveling around like Kansas, Texas, in that area, reading the news, and he collects a dime from each participant for them to hear the news. And I think that is also a major social, kind of like maybe church on Sunday is also very much a social gathering for people, families, and people who are spend their weeks working very, very hard, seriously laboring. So it's a great movie, highly recommend it. We saw it on Amazon Prime, that has ads with their free V program, which I honestly don't know that much about because Randy runs the TV, which is just fine with me. So watching that, and watching American Idol, and we just finished watching America's Got Talent. They had their all-star or fantasy league or something. I don't remember what it was called. So super fun, and The Voice is back on as well. So that is our evening entertainment. And I think that is all I have for you. I finished Agatha Christie's, and then there were one. That is a great book. I borrowed it from the library and read it on my Kindle. Really suspenseful. It's dated in its language, and there's definitely some mention of self-harm and violence that is definitely not, that kind of language comes with warnings these days. So just bear that in mind if you are sensitive to those types of topics. But a great mystery. In fact, I had to go back and kind of read the cliff notes to really understand what happened at the end. It was really good, very good. Now I'm reading another mystery book that takes place in, and I don't remember the author. I will try to remember to put that in the show notes. I love mystery novels. It's a series of books by a woman who, the first book takes place in Sierra Madre in California, which is near Pasadena. I have certainly been there before. So it's kind of fun to revisit that part. That is really all I have. So have a great week. Enjoy this significantly long episode, and I hope you got lots of work done on your project. So see you next time. Bye. We're having a winter day. Not sure what the weather is going to be like by the time I podcast, hopefully on Friday. But this is Tuesday, February 27th. It has been winter this week of February 26th, so I'm showing you the creek on Thursday, February 29th. You can see that it is leaving the banks and going into this flat area that is part of the stream channel. And it is running pretty fast and furious upstream from us. So we've had a lot of mixed rain and snow and some heavy rain at times, which increases the amount of flow quite a bit. Hopefully it doesn't go over the road, but it has come up a lot overnight. And it's just sprinkling now, which is good. This is the outfall side. And last year the county did some work on culvert downstream, so hopefully it doesn't get blocked up. So it looks like it's just really moving quite nicely. And let's hope it stays that way.